It's a Tuesday afternoon, and boy, is it good to be back in the studio. I know we've been connecting remotely for quite a while now, thanks to SARS-CoV-2, as we know it as COVID-19. Today is the 26th day of the month of May in the year 2020, the year we're all supposed to be spending time just washing our hands. So if you're wondering where the year went or where it's going, there will be quite a lot of washing of hands. So this is the Executive Lounge. In case you didn't know, that on Tuesday afternoons from 13-15 hours, we go with some of the best minds and tell their story to hopefully inspire us into doing something remarkable with our own. My guest today needs a little more than not a little, a whole channel dedicated to her story. But because we practically cannot do that on radio or on TV, she listened to the voice of the people and the voice of God and put together a book that is titled Broken for You. And so our conversation today will be lessons from her life as detailed in the book, but more importantly about growth. And oftentimes when we celebrate people on the Executive Lounge, we tend to tell their stories, how they've arrived, and never the journey. And today we want to take lessons from the journey, because you see, whether you like it or not, you're either starting, you're either stuck in the middle, or you're somewhere towards the end. So there has to be something that touches the lives of anyone and everyone that we reach through the medium of radio, online, and Facebook. We're live on the Joy FM Facebook page, so you can tell your friends who can't tune in via radio to go to Facebook, look for Joy 99.7 FM, and join the conversation. We're also live at myjoyonline.com, and you can tweet at us by hashtagging Executive Lounge, or mention me at GHRainmaker, and let's all make some rain together. So my guest is a female. She is a mother. She has a bachelor's degree in physics, a master's degree in mechanical engineering. She has an MBA too. Oh yes, and then she also has an MA in ministry from the Trinity Seminary. And to top it all off, she's a priest with the Anglican Diocese of Accra, Reverend Akua Buabema Ofori-Boateng. You are welcome to the Executive Lounge, and you're no stranger to our audience, because we've played your TV conversation on radio a few times, and the responses have been great. But today is a whole new ball game.
Nhyira, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's wonderful to see you again.
It is for me as well, as always. And like I said, there's so much I would love to talk to you about from your life, the book, and everything. But there are a number of themes in the book that I must say that I've been so super humbled and blessed to have read an advanced copy. And just this morning, it dawned on me that the first time I've read anything which was Christian themed that held my attention so much was when I read the much talked about journey from the darkness or something many years ago in the 80s, you know, and I saw so much practical wisdom in there, and I'm sure that I'm all, very happy and eulogizing your journey, but you didn't feel that great about it when some of it was unfolding.
No, certainly not.
Right. So what inspired the book? Why did you choose to write the book?
So I think, when having become a priest, many people, I'd meet young women, young men, people in the youth would come and talk to me about the challenges that they experienced. And in the beginning, it was just, it sounded similar to the kind of challenge I was having, but I thought it was a one-off. But more and more, I would meet people who were struggling with the same things that I struggled with. and I'd be able to talk them through the situation and, you know, continue a conversation over a couple of years, you know, try and get them through it. And I thought, gosh, you know, this is one person. And for every one person that I'm able to talk to, there are 10, you know, 100 other people who I'll never be able to talk to because I'm one person. And so I started praying about it. Like, God, you know, what do I do? How do I start seminars? What do I do? And he kept saying, you know, write a book. Just put your life experience in a book and put it out there. And I felt like, I don't want to put myself out there. It's scary, you know. So when you read the book, you'll find that I'm always battling with God.
Yeah.
So we battled for about a year about writing this book, and then eventually I saw his point, and so I wrote it. So that's really just to get other people to see that, you know, God is cool. He's a nice guy, and yes, we've messed up, but we've all messed up, and there's a way out of it. There's life after messing up.
You know, somewhere along your life's journey, someone said you would be a priest. You had very early childhood encounters with God, and sometimes we write these things off. Looking back now, would you say that you wish you had the understanding of who God is earlier than you do now?
Certainly. Looking back now, one, I wish I had spoken about it to somebody. You know, as I said in the book, I didn't grow up in a house where we did anything much more than go to church on Sunday. And so, you know, just like many homes, you know, you go to church Sunday and it's important to go, and then life goes on. And even though I was in Richchurch, which was a Christian school, you know, there was never much talk about, you know, actually having a relationship with God and the fact that God can talk to us and visions and so on. So I wish then that, one, I had spoken about it, and two, that I just knew people who talked about those kinds of things so that it didn't feel weird to me that, you know, why am I having a vision or why am I feeling this way?
Yeah. One of the things that a lot of people would maybe hesitate to admit to is that, you know, as we grow and evolve, we would be buffeted by self-doubt and sometimes difficulty accepting who we are. And you talk about this theme, you know, that for you it took quite a while, all the way to maybe 35 to actually accept you for who you are. And I'm looking at you ever since I've got to know you. I've been wondering when I was reading the book that, okay, so what's Akua's point? I mean, yeah, she's cool. So what was it about you that you struggled to accept?
I think we all see ourselves through the lens of other people. And that's where the fundamental error is. Because we really should see ourselves through the lens of God. You know, who are we in God? How does God view us? But in the absence of God actually coming and putting his arm around our shoulders, we only view, you know, our friends say we're good looking, and so we're good looking. Our friends say we're not good looking, and so we're not good looking. And that was what I struggled with. It was just deep insecurity. You know, if you look at the human being, we are physical, we are spiritual, and we are mental. And I think as a world and as a people, we focus on the physical and the mental, and we tend not to focus so much on the spiritual. And when we are in very religious settings, we focus on the spiritual and the physical, and we tend not to focus on the mental. So what we find is that if we are very scientific in our thinking, and we are focused on the physical and the mental, we never have conversations around what could be bothering a person spiritually. And so it just doesn't come up. Likewise, if we're very spiritual, even if we're having a chemical imbalance or something, you know, it never comes up because there's a feeling of, oh, you know, if once you have food and water, you should be happy. You know, so why are you depressed? Why are you struggling with your self-image? And So I just struggled with accepting that I had value in me, that I had something to offer. And many young people in this country and young people around the world struggle with self-worth, with defining who they are, with feeling as if they can make a contribution to this world. And
you know, it's rightly so that sometimes we, or more often than not, we are more interested in what the people around us think. And I think popular culture has exploited that really well. So good looking is defined by popular culture and magazines and adverts and movies and all of these things. And in your case, and quite possibly in the case of many other people, including people that we look up to and say, Fortune 500 or blue chip CEOs or managers, they're doing a great job in the public eye. But once they're in their space alone, they're battling with things that would amaze you and I when we find out. Along that journey for you, you in your book call them your good Samaritans.
Yes.
How important are the people who you nurture relationships with over time? What's the place of the right relationships in the evolution of who Akua has become?
I think it's absolutely critical. And I think one of the errors that many of us make is we assume that our friends or our oldest friends or our best friends should be the people that we grew up with. And so we tend not to want to get too close to the newer people that we meet because we feel, you don't know me so well and so on. But I've come to believe that people have reasons for coming into your life. They come, they serve a very specific purpose, and when they are done, they are gone. And there are people who are there for seasons and, they last a lot longer. And then there are people who, of course, for a lifetime. But I think it's critical for each of us to do an assessment every so often and say, okay, who are the people in my life? What value are they adding to my life? What value am I adding to their life? Because if you look at there's so many celebrities and people who have, they've had leeches around them because, they had money, they had fame, they had something or other. And so they never stopped to assess and say, do I need these people around me? Are they really adding value? And each of us, no matter whether or not we're a celebrity, have people who are positive in our lives and people who are negative in our lives. And I have found that if I just pray through that situation and say, look, God, there are people in my life who I'm sure you don't want in my life. Let them fall off if they're not supposed to be around. And we will find that God does respond to these types of prayers because we are making it clear to Him that we want Him to be a part of our life.
How does a middle class girl, brilliant, academically, really gifted, go through so much where you kind of constantly, and I'm looking at the Akua that you describe and the Akua I know now, and I'm thinking you were the full article right from the day you were born, but somehow you were looking for some validation which was external to you. I mean, to the point where you actually studied an MBA just because you had a friend who was going to do it, and it was great company to do it. It's a good thing to study for an MBA, but I mean, how do you commit to doing an MBA just to make a friend happy?
I think when I think back on it, right, it probably started when I was about maybe 8 or 9.
Okay.
And it revolved around the fact that in my school there were cliques of people who were cool and people who were not. Now I'm not bashing the school in any sense. I mean, that's just the environment that was there.
That's right.
And it revolved around what you could afford in terms of, whether you could wear Nike shoes, whether you wore nice clothes, whether your color, whether or not you the right level of light skin, how quickly you develop breasts as a girl, so if by 15 your breasts are still struggling to make an appearance, then you are not nearly as exciting as the other girls. How hippie are you? All of those things fed into my sense of what was important, because when I looked at the people around me who were popular, who were accepted and appreciated, they didn't look like me. They were light-skinned, they were voluptuous, they were all of these things. And so in my mind, I needed to find other ways to become accepted and other ways to be wanted. And that, having been planted in my head at that young age, stuck in my head for years and years and years. So when my friend Jerry came and said, let's do an MBA, I didn't have it in me to say no. And it's one of those things where many people don't draw boundaries. They can't say no. They say yes to every single request that comes.
Even when it hurts.
Even when it hurts, because they don't want to hurt the other person. The thinking is, I can handle my own pain but I can't deal with somebody else's pain. So let me just say yes, because if I say no, then they will be sad. But if I say yes, I'll be sad, but I can comfort myself. And so there's no boundary. So somebody says, let's do an MBA. And because I don't want to say, or I don't want to do an MBA, I say, okay, I'll do an MBA. And then I'm sitting there for 2 years feeling miserable. But then he thinks I'm a great person.
Well, I'm sure he still does think that you're a great person. But I think that, it was not a wasted venture.
No, it certainly wasn't.
It wasn't a wasted venture, which kind of leads me to, the concept of God ordering our steps. Somewhere along the line, you fell in love, and with a childhood friend. You got separated, and then you reunited when you moved to the States for your university. But again, you took your focus of validation from now being in the cool clique of school to centering it around this person.
Yes.
But it didn't work out in the end.
No, it didn't.
And that led you to a series of encounters which sort of started a course correction. And I'm referring to, did you ever worry about admitting in your memoirs that I went to see a shrink? I did see a psychotherapist. In this country, you can't see a shrink.
I agree.
We don't do that. It's not natural in our. It's not commonplace in our society to have people openly admit to seeking help to deal with mental health issues. But this morning I was thinking about it, that if you have a brain, just like a car breaks down, your brain might break down too. But it's just me thinking. Society doesn't look at it like that.
No, society doesn't look at it like that. And if I hadn't gone for this help, yes, I would still not want to write it in my book. But because I went for the help, I am comfortable enough in myself and sure enough of who I am to be able to openly say that, yes, I did have a mental health challenge, and I sought professional help not once but twice in different parts of the world. And it helped me because it brought me, in fact, that mental health assistance is what brought me to the point of recognizing that it was spiritual help that I actually needed. I needed to have God in my life. And it's a shame that as a society we treat it as though you're a pariah if you have some kind of mental health issue, because many people have mental health issues. The fact that you're not walking around naked doesn't mean you don't have a mental health issue. And when I speak to people, the type of depression that they struggle with, the inability to just move. I mean, there are people who wake up in the morning and they are crippled by something, and I'm not a psychologist, but I know that with the help of a psychologist and with the right type of guidance and spiritual care, they can come out of it.
If you just tuned in, this is Joy 99.7 FM, and it's 32 minutes past 1, and you're listening to the Executive Lounge. I'm Nhyira Addo. My guest is Reverend Akua Ofori-Boateng, and she's a mechanical engineer and a priest.
Yes.
And a philanthropist. Now, talking about philanthropy, somewhere on that journey, you discovered that it was fun talking to young people. And that's just become, being a priest is like, okay, your office, but your passion is really impacting young people. How did the realization hit you and make you feel?
When I came back to Ghana, I was talking to a friend of mine who was, whining about something. And she said, come and speak to my students. Just come and talk to them. And she said, they're about to go to university. You just came out of university. Just go and talk to them. And when I started talking to them, what I realized was that there were so many things I had picked up in university and from my early years of working that these young kids just didn't know. And it made me see that, there's a lot, especially in this part of the world, that we are not taught, that is taught in other parts of the world. And so we come out of school not very sure of ourselves. We come out of school not very open to possibility, because, we are conditioned that if you mess up in university, you've messed up your life. And it's just not true. If you mess up in university, there's a way to recover. But the point of university is to experiment, is to learn, is to really figure yourself out. It's not to go and get stuck in some, okay, me, I'm an accountant, and so accounting is what I'll do until the day I die. Because we all have different passions. And when I started talking to these young people, it was like, I could just see light going off behind their eyes, like, oh, I didn't know this was possible. And so I thought, why not just talk to them and get them to see that there's so much more in you, and you can be so much more than just sitting around.
Right. Now, the interesting thing about you talking to young people, apart from the fact that you enjoy that, it seems quite impactful. I've been doing a bit of research, spoken to quite a number of people who you've interacted with, and they all will place their hand on a Bible and swear that, your talking to them was the needed intervention that course-corrected their own lives. So it's good to follow your passion, I believe.
I believe so.
But before you started following your passion, you took a lot of anger and use this as motivation to
do a lot of
things. Can you just give us a sense of what it felt like to say, I am going to do this just to show you that me too I did.
Yeah. So the drive was very strong. The drive to, when I was feeling angry and feeling as though I want to accomplish something, the drive was very strong. However, once I accomplished it, it always felt deeply disappointing because I recognized that, one, whoever I was trying to prove it to wasn't paying attention, and in the end, it wasn't something I wanted to do anyway. So I hadn't gotten my revenge, and I myself didn't feel a sense of accomplishment because it's not what I wanted to do. It wasn't something I was passionate about. I was doing it because I wanted to prove somebody wrong. And I only proved them wrong in my head, and nobody else noticed. Yeah.
It reminds me of the civil rights fighter Edgar Mevers, I think. And I think one of the things he said was that, there's no point hating people, because when you do, you'll be wasting your time. The people who hate you or wrong you fall in two categories. One, they truly hate you, and the other ones, they don't care. So nothing you do is really
make it
apart from all of this, I think that at some point you finally accepted who you are.
Yes.
And then you had another encounter with God, which said you ought to study Him. At that point, the image I have in mind is like the road runner suddenly just pulling the brakes.
That's a good image.
Just suddenly you're like, shoo, and then you suddenly just pull the brakes and said, hang on a second, did you say I should study you? How was that internal conversation? Not with God, you heard Him, right? But now you being able to say, okay, did I hear right? Okay, I heard right. Do I do it? How do I go about it? What was the feeling like?
So if you remember, at that point, I was still very upset with God.
Yes.
I was still trying.
He had come in and messed your business up.
He had come in and messed everything up,
Yeah.
And I felt like, I never want to, I've always said to myself that I never want to stand at heaven's gate and be scratching my head like, well, I don't really know what went wrong. I just kind of, sorry, God, I just messed up. So I thought, I want to be able to say to God that, it's okay if I don't make it to heaven, because it won't be out of foolishness. It will be out of an intelligent decision that I don't think you're a nice guy and I don't want to hang out with you. So in my head, when this, this instruction, if you will, came from God that, go and study me, I thought, yes, let me go and study you. It was just the same kind of anger and revenge. Let me go and study you, because I know if I go and study you, I'm going to find out that this whole thing is a hoax, and you're just making us suffer in this world, and there's really no proper end to it. It's all just to make us miserable, and then we die, and then everything comes to an end. So for me, it was the same revenge. But you talked about God ordering our steps, and I think what happens with many of us is God knows us. God knows the things that will drive us to do something. And at that time, God knew that if I'm going to get Akua to do something, I need to upset her. I need to, I need to get her to be angry with me, because that is what will drive her to do it. And it worked. It absolutely worked.
Wow. Indeed, God does know us more than we know ourselves. It's shy of 40 minutes past 1, and we're going all the way to 2. It feels like we need more time already, but lots of comments coming via Facebook. So Phyllis Buckman is applauding, and a number of okay, so here are some messages I want to read now. Akua Buckman says, awesome, the new brand of new leadership, a new mindset. I like that, and I want to leverage that comment to you did serve in public service at some point.
Yes.
It comes with all its controversies and all of those things, but what about you kept you straight and, if I could say without reproach, that you can look back and say you walked away with your head held high?
When I used to work at Cummins.
Okay.
And when I worked there, we had a class on integrity. It was a 2-day.
Wait, the company had a class?
The company would give us classes regularly.
Wow.
And one of the classes was on integrity. And the definition of integrity that was given was anything that you don't want your mother to read on the front page of the newspaper, don't do. And so whenever I think about reproach and things that I don't want on the newspaper, the person I think about is my mother. And so that has always been a guiding principle for me, that I don't want to do anything that will lead my mother to have to hang her head in shame and say that, my daughter has disgraced us. So that seriously has kept me on the straight and narrow.
Wow. For once, you have good fear.
Good fear. Very good fear.
Oh my goodness.
I'm afraid of my mother.
Yeah. So, for me, today is a very special day. I think that I totally have enjoyed interviewing you, and the reviews that we often get when we play back the older interview is awesome, and it's no different to what we're getting right now. Mokowa Blade Ujamfi says, I hope I pronounced that right, I would not have missed my dear Reverend Akua for nothing. Today is special on 3 fronts. 1, because I get to interview you for a second time. 2, because it's your birthday.
Yes.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
And the third thing is that we're not in normal times, so we're doing something outlandishly creative. Your book is actually being released, and this is like the global launch in the radio studio.
I tell you.
with 3 other shows in the studio. But if you could hold that, I think the camera is somewhere facing you.
The camera.
There's a camera that's picking you.
Is there a camera here?
Yes, there should
Is this
be.
the camera?
Okay, let me have it.
Okay,
Selwyn, I don't know where Revik was. Okay, so this is the book, Broken for Use. And look, I must say that if I've ever reviewed a book, this for me should be a book that everyone must have a copy of. Read it and share it with people, because it's filled with practical things and wisdom and experiences that you recount in so much candor that it makes me feel okay to mess up a few times. I kind of feel like it's okay. I mean, is God really cool like that as you make it look?
I think God is cool like that. And we go to church and hear it over and over again, that Christ died on the cross once and for all sin before and all sin after. And then we go home and then we try, when we mess up, instead of going to God, we're like, I'm going to do penance, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And one of the things my counselor, my coach and counselor, my psychologist counselor told me was that whenever we try to live up to God's standard, it's pride, because we never can.
That's true.
You know, what would be, it's not to say, oh, let's just go out there and go and sin. Certainly, as we develop a relationship with God, I mean, God is our friend. If to sin is to offend your friend. True. And so the reason why we don't sin and we try not to sin is because we love God and we don't want to offend him. But if we do offend him, think about it. If your really best friend messed up, are you really going to throw him out and say, you know, no. I'm done with you? Of course not.
No.
So if we wouldn't do that to each other, how much more God? Yeah. God is, he's a nice guy. I mean,
do you think that there's a certain level of abstractness that we have with God which makes us feel that we can forgive and eventually forgive people who we see every day and have, you know, and that, as for God, dear Charlie, yeah, he's somewhere. Every once in a while, you know, I see him on Sunday, and yeah, when I'm in deep trouble, I call him and he shows up, you know.
I think we do that because we don't interact with God on the everyday. You know, I was talking on a show the other day, and I said that I have a friend who her entire interaction with God revolves around parking. She says, God, I need a parking spot. And she says it works all the time. You know, whenever she asks for parking, whenever she asks for red lights to be changed to green because she doesn't want to be in traffic, God comes through for her. And I think God is interested in the everyday. You know, God, should I have an omelette this morning or I should have toast? He's interested. We laugh because we think like, oh, God is a serious guy, he's dealing with serious things. But God is interested in everything, and he's told us over and over again, but we have decided what should be important to him and what shouldn't be.
Okay. So as we launch this book, there's some very wonderful people. Before I go to the phone lines, I have lined up some interesting people that I would like to hear from. And we have the very first one on the line. Broken for Use. How did you come by the name?
So, you know, I've been blogging these prayers, these small devotionals. I've been doing that for 2 years.
Right.
And when I started blogging it, if I wasn't blogging it, I was just sending it as a WhatsApp message to a couple of people. So one day I forgot to send it. And a friend called, a number of people called, they're like, hey, where's the message? And then a friend called and she said, you know, you need to be professional about this thing. And, you know, she was very, very upset with me. I was like, oh, but Charlie, this is like a small thing I'm just trying to do. She's like, no, people wake up in the morning and they're waiting for your message. I was like, oh, okay. And then she's like, plus it needs to be professional. You know, this has to be proper. So she says, I'm going to go find some names for you. You should see what other people are doing, you know. So I said, okay. You know, I was feeling very afraid. So she comes back with a series of names, and Broken for Use just stood out for me.
Wow.
And so I chose it. That was it.
And then later
on, I was trying to figure out a name for this book, and I was like, God, what would I call this book? What would I call this book? And I thought, you know, why am I giving myself all this wahala? You know, I really just want to talk about the fact that so much of me has been broken down so that I can be useful to God.
And to man. So the first person I have on the line is Secretary to the Global Christian Forum. I'm sure by now you know who that is. A Methodist minister based in the United States, Reverend Dr. Kingsley Bading Esamwa. Thank you for making time to join us. Well, it's good afternoon here and maybe good morning where you are.
Well, thank you very much for this. I just want to say congratulations to both of you and a big ayuko to Reverend Akua. If you have gone through any writing, you realize that there's a lot you have to overcome to get to the place where it can be published. So congratulations, ayuko, and happy birthday also.
Thank you, thank you.
I just want to start with what Professor Mercy Oduoye said, which is one of the blurbs in the book. Professor Mercy Oduoye is one of the leading theologians in Africa. In fact, as far as women are concerned, she's the foremost one. And the professor says, I wish I had read this when I was 17 and also when I was 35. That is significant. That shows how important this work is, not only for women, but for men, for all those who are growing up, and also shows how beautiful God can put us together when he gets all the broken pieces of our lives. So I'm so excited to be able to give a shout out to this book and to Reverend Akua.
Well, thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Kingsley Bading Esamwa. I really appreciate you supporting, and I'm glad we could ambush her. She's clearly lost for words, which is very unusual.
Yes, Kingsley, thank you. I don't know what to say, but thank you very, very much. I mean, sure. Medasi.
We give thanks to God for your life and hope that
Amen.
this book and your ministry will bring glory and honor to God.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you, amen. And we've got more coming your way in a moment. But so, a question that just came through, if I could find the name. Okay, so now this person says, Reverend Akua. I'll find the name, but the question was, there you go. It's Kwajofor. He says, Akua, do you believe your past experiences was divinely authored?
That's a brilliant question. I believe that all things work for the good of those that love the Lord, and to honor His purpose. And I say this because I believe in both the perfect will and the permissive will of God. And I think within the permissive will of God, God knows what He wants to use us for, as long as we'll avail ourselves to Him. And with each mess up that we have, He finds a way to use it to teach us and to get us through to the point that He wants us to be. I mean, it's very much like the wilderness situation. You know, these guys were stealing the manna, they were storing, all these things were mistakes that they made, despite the fact that God had told them not to do it. And all those things helped to grow. So yes, I think it was divinely ordered, although I wouldn't say that was I don't think it was the perfect will of God that I should have all these problems. But I think in the end it was divinely ordered.
It all worked out nicely. Yes. It was being broken would be useful.
It would be useful.
Yeah. All right. So we have on the line Mrs. Matilda Mr. Arthur.
Auntie Matilda.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for making time to join us, Auntie Matilda. I hope all is well with you.
All is well, and you?
Well, basking in God's glory and enjoying Reverend Akua's company. Now, I know that you have a pretty long-standing relationship with her. Is there anything in the book you think she left out that she was holding to her chest?
No, that's everything you need to know. Everything is in the book.
Oh, good. All right. Well, I'm very excited to know that. So we're celebrating the global launch of this book, which for me I think is a masterpiece. I haven't read anything as great as this in a long time. You've had a chance to go through it. What was your first impression when you went through it?
My first impression is, wow, she didn't leave anything out. Everything is there. Personal things. People normally would leave certain personal things of their lives out of the book, but Akua has it all in there.
Wonderful. And so if there was one thing that you would like for our listeners to walk away with in anticipation of reading this book, what would it be?
It will be for readers to know that no matter how broken you are, you can be made brand new. You can be made brand new if you just go to the Lord Jesus Christ. He will take up the pieces, make you brand new, and you become a new person, not just as in outlook, but everything. Look at Akua, beauty with brains. God took her brokenness, molded her, made her another person, and she radiates God's beauty. She doesn't just radiate God's beauty, it is all over her, and she's given part of it to us in a book. And that is what God does. God gives you that beauty that enables you not to just radiate, but also give to people.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Auntie Matilda and Mr. Arthur, for joining us. Akua, you want to say a quick word?
Auntie Matilda, you've been amazing in helping me get through this process, your advice, your counsel, and you've topped it off by calling in today, and I'm so grateful to you.
Akua, happy birthday.
Thank you.
We love you. We
you,
really love you.
Thank you.
The sky is your limit. God bless you.
Amen.
God bless you too, Auntie Matilda and Mr. Arthur, for joining us on the show. And there's one that I have lined up, but let me read this message. I think this is from Cooks in Labone. He says, "Happy birthday, Reverend Akua. I would like to meet her. I just love her, and I'd like my children to meet her as well. You can go to Holy Trinity one of these days when church resumes, right? Where can we get her books and where can we meet up with her? Okay, so meeting up with her, church, or you can go to, there's a Facebook page, right?
There's a Facebook page.
Yeah,
yes.
it's Reverend Akua.
ReverendAkua.com. Yeah, ReverendAkua.com is my website.
That's right.
BrokenForYous.com is the website for the book.
Okay.
And on Facebook, you can find me under Reverend Akua.
That's right. So you can make your connection that way. But the book is available as of right now on Amazon. It's also available on booknook.store. So it's BOOKNOOK.store. STORE. Video Bookshop also has
Anglican
it.
Bookshop.
Also at the Anglican Bookshop, they'll also have it
The
available.
number you can call as well.
Okay, you remember it off the top of your head? Okay,
it's
good.
05454 11414.
Okay, 05454 11414.
Yes.
Okay,
you're good.
Just listening, paying attention. Thank you. All right, so we have about 5 more minutes to go, and let's hope that I'm able to set up one more call. Now, this is Stephen Stephen Tay. Stephen, forgive me, but it's Oriodan Tay says, I fell in love with her personality the first time I met her. She has been an inspiration. I like this. And now we have one of the women whose career in the media has inspired many. Madame Elizabeth Ohene is on the line. Madame Elizabeth Ohene, thank you for making time for us as we celebrate Reverend Akua, the book, and her birthday today. How are you, first of all?
It is to me. I'm very well, thank you.
Yes, indeed, and we're happy to have you. So this book, for me, I'm almost getting, tired of saying that it's one of the best books I've read in a very, very long time.
How long did it take you to read?
It took me quite a while, to be honest with you, because I couldn't put it down, and at the same time, it made me think so much about the themes and the context that I didn't want to finish the book. I was actually afraid of finishing the book. But what was the reading like in your case? How long did it take you?
Oh, I was reading it for 2 reasons. So, but it took me 4 days.
Wow. You did better than I did. I think for me it was about over a 2-week period, because you kind of read stuff and then you go back and then you think about how it relates to your own life and experiences you've observed and things like that. I think this is a book that every person must read. It's so insightful. What's your take on the themes that she explored in the book?
It's a very brave book. And it's a book that, what I found fascinating about it really is that it's almost as if you are part of the story that she's telling. You are reading, you are the reader, but she manages to make the reader part of the experience. And it is quite an experience. And I thought to myself, oh dear, how would I have managed this situation? How would I don't know how I would have cooked. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I was in something like that. And, it's all that is what made me go on and on and on about it. And in some ways, okay, so I'm Ghanaian. And in the parts of the book that are set in Ghana, it's interesting to think up those areas, to know those areas that you already know, to put the geography to what is happening to her, with her, and about her in the story, in the story that she tells. So I think that above all, I'm an old woman coming to this book, but I think it will be really, and even I was taken up by it. But I think young people in particular would just devour it. It's a book to be devoured by young people.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Madame Elizabeth Ohene, for making time for us.
Thank you, Auntie Elizabeth.
And our final call as we wrap up is a woman I have had a crush on since I was about 9. And she's a wonderful person. The Reverend Joyce Rosalind Ayi. Auntie Joyce.
Hello, Nhyira and Reverend Akua.
Hello, Auntie Joyce.
So, Auntie Joyce, all I wanted you to do today is just to give Reverend Akua a word of encouragement on her birthday and on the book.
I'll even sing for her. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Akua. Happy birthday to you. I shan't ask you how old you are.
Don't.
Because like a piano, I won't even compare you to wine. Like a piano, you will age beautifully and graciously.
Well, thank you so much, Auntie Joyce. God bless you, and we will be drawing the curtains on our conversation today.
Before you draw the curtains, let me tell Reverend Akua that this is just the beginning of the journey. I mean, the candor with which she wrote this book is a responsibility on her to speak more into the lives of people. Akua, God bless you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Auntie Joyce. And to all our audience on Facebook, on the radio, whichever way you've consumed this conversation, the book is officially launched. I have nominated myself, the Grand Duke of Launches. I'm launching Broking for Use, a very, very useful piece of literature, and God bless you, Reverend Akua, for doing this. Happy birthday. We have a birthday surprise for you, but MFR Power is here, and she has some plenty news to tell us. MFR, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
And what's in the headlines this afternoon?
6